Welcome to another exciting episode of Coffee and Bonsai with Tom. Today, I want to talk about misfit pots and probably help you solve a problem that I often find myself having. And that is, I've acquired a pot that I love, but it's either too big or too small or too deep or not deep enough or the wrong color. I just can't find a use for it. Now, normally what I do, and I'll just kind of show some of these pots as we're going through here. Normally what I do is, I have a tree and I find a pot for it. And, there's some guesswork involved there unless you actually have the tree with you when you buy the pot. This is a lovely green one. I love the green crackle on here and also the picture. And you can see the maker there. The problem you run into and how you usually acquire misfit pots is like this. I just saw a pot that I absolutely loved and I couldn't help myself and bought it without any specific tree in mind. And then I do that again and again. Here's another one. I love this pot. I love the feet. It's very much in the same style. In fact, I think it's the same maker as the previous pot. But you can see it, it's like, I don't even think it's an inch deep. So it's difficult, unless I want to water all the time, to put much in here. But it's a beautiful tree, or a beautiful pot. Yeah, you can see it's the same maker. And I think I got these from a Vietnamese pot maker. So I call them like Vietnamese style pots. So this last pot, I just love this color. It's got a little dimple there on this side. It's a lot deeper. And I actually got this pot off Dave DeGroot, if anyone knows who he is. A very famous bonsai artist. And he used to run the Pacific Bonsai Museum here in the Seattle area, and just a wonderful guy. And he recommended a nice red maple to put in here. So perhaps I will someday get one of those and try that out. I do think it'd be beautiful, but I currently don't have any maples, but I think it's definitely sound advice. So what's the solution? What do you do with these misfit pots? Well, I think with many things in bonsai, what you do is you make a jade forest, because jades are just so adaptable to almost any kind of situation. This is a jade that I got as a gift. A friend gave this to me. Yeah, you can see, look at the color on this. I mean, it's just beautiful. I think I've had these before, and I have a little trouble keeping them red, which is funny because I keep other jades red quite easily. He got a 2-for-1 deal on this, and so he snagged one for me. And I thought, what am I going to do? Yeah, it's a Crosby's compact, so Crassula Ovata. And I decided to try to utilize some of these misfit pots, and that is what we're going to do today. And, maybe you can try the same solution. We'll see how it goes. So my plan here is to, separate these plants, clean them up, maybe do some pruning on them, get them ready, and then see which one or maybe several of these misfit pots I can use to create some forests, and see how it goes. So hang on, and let's see how this turns out. So here we go. I'll get these out of the pot and start raking the roots and separate them. I don't know if you need to watch all this. I'll kind of start a bit and then do some editing. And I'm just going to gently rake the soil away, sometimes not so gently, depending on how many roots they have and how difficult it is to get this out. And I tend to start gentle and then kind of scale it up from there. I may just try to cut. I think I'll just kind of cut this out because, the roots kind of tend to go down and then, around. So if you kind of make a plus cut through, it sort of makes it much easier to separate these sometime. But I mean, this looks pretty good. I think we've got some reasonable roots here to work with. So you can see we're really kind of getting into it now and loosening this up. And I will just speed on through until we get our first extraction. So I've been working away for a few minutes here. Like I said, you want to be kind of gentle. Roots are fragile. Hey, we got one loose for Jade, and just kind of what I'm showing here, just gently cleaning the roots and getting the soil out. I usually don't wash them. I don't find that's completely necessary, but you can if you want to. And I'll throw them in here, and I will now just continue this through the rest of this cohort of beautiful jade. So we're coming into the home stretch here. This is the last Mohican. It's got a big hunk of root on there, which I think I'll just snip off and thin it out. And we will move on to, clean up a bit here and then move on to the next phase, which is, doing just some general pruning on some of these little trees to get them ready to put into a forest. So here we have our bucket of bounty, and I think we'll just take the trees one by one and kind of sort them on height. Sometimes you have just the right variance of heights, and then that can be very useful to kind of straightforward to help in putting them in the forest. But you sort of want to know, okay, what are the big trees, what are the small trees? And I always find it helps to sort them by height initially, so I'm just making 3 stacks of kind of small, medium, and large here, and then we will go from there. So I'm just finishing up the sorting here by height, and it's not absolutely critical. We'll be doing some pruning on these to modify the height, but I sort of, you got to start somewhere, so I'm just trying to group 3 to 5, maybe 7 trees together that, oh, look, we have some double trunks here. It's interesting. I think for this planting, I don't want to mix single and double trunks, so I'm going to move the doubles off to the side for now, and I think we'll work with these trees on the left to try to create a forest. So I'm going to bring these trees in one by one and, just give them a bit of a tune-up, right? Just try to, any root problems that can easily be fixed, I'll fix those. I kind of want to create some space on the styling of the trunks, just do some selective pruning and remove stuff that's too crowded, leaves that are to the inside, maybe create some variance so that the primary trunk is taller than the secondary trunks. So I basically just provide those principles. You're just trying to make it look more like a tree and less like succulent. And usually you do that by removing overly large leaves and then creating a main trunk. So you kind of take some of the secondary trunks, reduce them so that the main trunk is obvious. So let's take a look at this one. I think we can certainly do that here. But first, let me clear off some of these inside branches, and I'll show you, we'll do that for this one, and then I'll probably just speed through some of the others so that this video is not overly long. So yeah, I'm just looking at what I want to do. I kind of like the red color, so I'm reluctant to cut it off, but at the same time, I want it to look like a tree, so off that goes, and yeah, that's way better. Gives it some perspective and looks more tree-like. And I'll do the same over here. Yeah, much better. So I think that is pretty much a tree. Let's look at the roots, but pretty much a tree cleaned up and ready to go. So I will add this tree to the lineup and continue onward and upward. So here I am tuning the second tree. Again, basically just applying the same principles of trying to make it look more like a tree. I think maybe just thin it out a little bit more here. That's not too bad. And into the lineup it goes. So I've zoomed ahead here a bit. You can see we got a nice lineup there, and we will do the double trunkers. And then I think we are ready to create some forests. I'll just thin this out. Get rid of these big old leaves that are too low. This one actually has quite a nice shape. I think it'll be kind of a nice little tree. I want to take that branch to the inside of the other tree off, and I think, yeah, reduce the height of that second one, and that is quite beautiful. And here's the last styling bits of the second double trunk, which is also quite a nice looking little tree. Okay, so let's put that one in there, and now it is go time to start figuring out what pot and or pots we are going to use. So let me just clean up here a bit and we will get on the way. So first up, I want to try this larger pot. And, maybe I can put the double trunkers in here. That is actually not bad. You know, it kind of has an A shape and looks pretty good. And the thing is, you know, you really have to just sort of play around with this. You know, you you have to, you know, kind of try different combinations of trees and different orientations. And let's see, this pot, I don't like that color at all. So yeah, I don't, I thought the red might work, but I'm really not liking that. I think this is a much better color combination with the red and the green and the kind of this natural brown. But let's try pot number 3. I think I'm liking this. I mean, I think, you know, I didn't want to combine those double trunks, and I feel like, you know, these have a nice triangle shape, and the pot's the right size. So I think just trying to get them in the right orientation for this pot, I think could work out quite well. So I think we got a slam dunk with that other pot, and we still have a lot of trees. So let's see what we can do here. I like this tree as the main tree because I just like how it looks, and you know, this one is pretty tall but kind of uninteresting otherwise. And you know, it can be quite challenging to place trees in a forest, you know, and so I always have to spend a fair amount of time doing this, you know, trying to figuring out, well, which trees am I going to use and where are they going to be and how are they going to be in relation to one another. And there's all sorts of theory around this, and it definitely helps as a guide, but until you actually get them in there and until it just feels right, it's kind of tough to, you know, just artificially prescribe how to do this. So I am going to play around with this, and then I'll come back and show you some ideas that I think will work. Like those two are just too similar in size. I think the small one would be a great one to put in the back to kind of show some perspective. So I think I'll slot that one for the back. But so far, so we've kind of slotted in 2 trees. I think that tall one we're just looking. This could work, but they're sort of similar sizes, right? So if I reduce the height of the primary one on that, that could work, or I could just remove it all together and have the secondary one. So this is one of the double trunks, but I really think it's destined to go in that other pot. Well, that could have worked as well. So there's no right answer. You just have to find something you're happy with and go from there. This one is nice and thick, so I think there's some options to tune that tree to fit kind of wherever we want it. Maybe I should move it over here. I don't know. I tend to always like my primary tree in that spot. I could put them closer together like that. This is the one we already looked at. I think we're just going to have to cut this one back and use it as kind of a small edge tree, probably on the right or the left. So I got a little frustrated trying to find the right combination for that pot, so I'm going to divide and conquer and plant those 2 double trunk trees in this pot, and then go back to tackling that other problem, because I'm pretty sure I know what I want to do here. And so I will prepare the pot. I'll just skip over that and show you what we've got when I'm done. So I've got the pot all ready. I'll put a little soil in there. I put some wire in here because I like to wire these in so I can, it just helps me with the forest. I like to really know that they're not wiggling around. It just, it's enough to deal with without having to worry about that. So I often use wire for my forests. And the trick in this one will be getting these 2 in, because I kind of want them tilted a bit off center. That doesn't look too bad, but it's just kind of getting the right, angle of these 2 twin trunks. Yeah, that doesn't look bad at all. So I think I want a little more soil to mound up a bit, and then I will place the right tree and kind of put the wire on, and when I get it about where I want, but keep it not super tight. I want to sort of lift it up and push soil under to hold it where I want it once I find the right spot, because there's a lot of fine tuning that goes on with these forests, so you don't want to crank it down too tight in the beginning until you get all the trees in there. And you can offset that a fair amount with soil, and by kind of holding the tree where you want it and then pushing the soil into the roots as well. So there's many different options, but I got a lot of wire here. I think I should I'll kind of cut that off, but yeah, so I think that should keep that tree somewhat where I want it until I get this second one in. Yeah, so I'm actually going to wrap a little bit of this excess wire around the trunk so I can position the angle of this tree, just loosely, and I don't keep this on long, but I find it helps to really get it sort of right where I want it. And now I can put in the second tree. I do kind of want it sort of forward back, but not exactly the same as the right hand tree, to just give the trunk some variety. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and wire that in position as well, and then we'll do the fine tuning here. Yeah, it was a little, yeah, I think that's better. I kind of want that primary tree on the right to really be the focus. So I'm now wiring in the second tree, again, not too tight, and we'll mostly use the soil placement and pushing it in to really get them exactly where we want them. And as I said, I like to keep it loose so I can sort of change the angle and position the trees a bit to fine tune it to get just the look that you want. And make sure you look at it from a few different angles to, before you kind of cement in the location. I'm not super happy with the one on the left. I'm going to play around with that a little bit, but I can take the wire off because it's kind of getting in my way. And then we will move on to soiling it in and getting it right where we want it. So here I go with the soil. I'm just going to dump some in, and then we'll, work it in with, I like to use the end of a spoon, but you can also use a chopstick or whatever you have. And what I like to do is, you don't want to really go at it, especially with jades because they have fragile roots, but, just kind of hold the tree where you want it and then gently push in all around. And I find it really sort of helps cement or lock the tree in place, which is quite helpful. I mean, it's always been amazing to me how well this works, how the soil really securely holds the tree. So that looks pretty good. I always like to finish off the topsoil with this. It's like a different brand of soil. It's like calcified clay that has a different color, and I kind of mound it up, and then you'll see it'll sort of work in as we apply it here. But I just find it's almost like a top dressing, but it's also soil, and I like to sort of finish them off because I think it gives a good color combination for the tree. So I will just work that in, again gently, and just kind of press and kind of fill those spaces so that all the roots have soil to grow into. So here you can see we have the finished product. I think it looks pretty good. We'll spin it around a little. I got some surface roots that popped up. You can just kind of cut those off. And I honestly feel, this is a pot that I have really wanted to use for a long time, and I am quite happy with the result. Otherwise the pot was just sitting around, and I think it looks great, and I look forward to seeing how this tree evolves. So now back to the other pot. I've been thinking about it, and I've already put some screens in. I have an idea of where to put these, so I'm going to go ahead and put some wire in. I do in a special way that I like to do for us, and let me do that, and I'll show that to you. So you can see here I like to have a wire for each tree placement, and I have a friend who says this is crazy, but I've seen people wire bamboo sticks all through the bottom and whatnot, and I don't think this is any worse, and I just find it so helpful to hold the trees while I'm designing the forest. So I like to have a wire per tree, and they're kind of roughly where I think the trees are going to end up, but you can easily kind of move it around. But I just find this super helpful to do it this way. So let's go ahead and install the main tree, because I'm quite sure where I want that one to go. And so I've got some soil in there, and I got my wire ready to go. I'll mount it up a little bit more, and you got to start somewhere. And so I tend to put the primary tree in, and then I try to go basically in order with the secondary tree, and then down to the least important trees. So I just kind of get it where I want it, and then much how you do wiring, I just sort of wrap the wire around this tree so that it will hold it in place, and I can also change its angle if I need to. As I said, I found this quite helpful. So let's go ahead and put the secondary tree in. I'm settled on this being the secondary tree, although I think I want to do some adjustment to this one because it's too tall and its complexity kind of matches the primary tree, and I want to sort of simplify that a bit. Yeah, so that's better. I just kind of cut the top of it off, and I will fine tune the placement of it here, but I've got a wire ready to go, and I can put it in place. So for the third tree, I kind of like this small one. I think that would be a good one to put in there. Yeah, I think this corner would be a good spot. Kind of want to go close to the edge, but you really want to place it so I accent it almost should look like a lower branch of that primary tree, at least in my opinion. So let's put some soil in and plant it. So here goes tree number 3 going in. It's kind of an odd shape. It's got sort of some high roots on it. I could cut it, but I don't want to have to wait and to water and treat all that. So I'm just going to put it in there and it'll be fine. So I want to get the angle right in relation to the primary tree. And then I will just go ahead and give it a little bit of a, kind of get the roots where I want, and then I'll just wire it right in there. You know, the wiring, it's just, as I said before, it's almost like wiring a branch or something, except you want to be kind of loose. And I'll come back and cut this extra stuff off later. And then I can take a look at it and fine tune it, and looks good. So this fourth tree, I was thinking about putting the taller tree in the center. But I think this smaller one just works a lot better. It just looks, you kind of get like 2 triangles going. So I'm gonna put that one in there. Same as the other ones. I'll kind of just work it into the soil a little bit, hang on to it, and just wire it in place. A little more soil on the bottom to kind of give it a hump to sit on. Yeah, you know, these things are so small, it can be a little tough to get in there. But you know, luckily this wire, it's just, you know, this is like the 1 millimeter stuff, so it's very easy to work with. And so yeah, got this one in. And that should be just about perfect. So we've arrived at last to the placement of the last tree, and we'll adjust all these trees here in a minute, but this one is just too darn tall, so I'm going to give it a bit of an adjustment here and just take some height off of it. It might be a little thick to be back there, but it'll be fine. Yeah, I think that will be just about right. So I will wire this one in place. Not a lot of foliage on this guy, but I'm sure it'll bounce back pretty quickly. And let's see. I'll do a little fine tuning here and get the roots where I want them. The wire makes it easy to adjust the trees, in particular after we've soiled it all in, and then I may want to raise that one a little, and then you can move them, and then after you water it, you can still give it some tweaking before it has a chance to grow roots and set in. But I'll just sort of gently get the roots where I want, try to get them under the soil. And then we will put in some more soil here. Let's clean up these wires, actually. That's, it's kind of ugly having those hang out all over the place. Hide all that aluminum craziness I've got going on this thing. Yeah, so yeah, it even looks good from the side here. So I'll dump some soil in. And then I'll just kind of hold each tree and sort of work it in. This is, you really have an opportunity to do some nice fine placement and really get the tree kind of planted right where you want it. And like the other tree too, I'll finish off with a top dressing soil that I like to use. But yeah, just dump it in, and now I will work it in. As I said before, I kind of like to use this spoon. It's like, it's really small. It's great for working on these tiny things, and I will just kind of fine tune each tree as I sort of work it in, work in the soil to kind of get it where I want it. And a combination of the soil and the wire kind of keeps it pretty stable. Like, I usually don't have any problems, and I can take this wire off, and these they grow quickly, but not that quickly. I usually leave it on for a month or two, and then kind of cut it off and just leave the wire down in the ground, and kind of just get it on the next repot. But yeah, I think this is looking pretty good, so I'm just going to continue to gently work this soil in. So after working that in, usually there's some roots that are sticking up. Sometimes I cover them up, sometimes I just snip them off here. These little jades had quite a bit of roots, so I don't have any problem just kind of snipping this stuff off. That's probably it'll probably dry out anyhow, so unless you missed it a lot, which I tend, I don't know, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But yeah, it's pretty good from the side. And yeah, kind of happy with what we're seeing so far. Let me give it a little tweak here. Yeah, I think that's a bit better. I kind of like all the trunks to, except for maybe the outside too, to sort of have the same angle with the ground. I just feel like that looks better, and I sort of, you want to push down a little bit on the soil to kind of fill in any air spaces. I find that to be pretty helpful as well. So I'm going to add in the top dressing soil, and I kind of mound it up pretty tall, and then just kind of gently work it in. As I said before, I like this because I think it just looks better than the stuff that has a lot of pumice in it with the white stuff. So I kind of like how this looks, and sometimes I just use my tweezers, that's what they are, to gently kind of work the soil in. And I go a little more gently this time because we've already done kind of some heavy duty working in with the chopstick or spoon. Yeah, so just move around to the back here, basically the same process. Fill it in, kind of try to get a nice even coverage of this topsoil and fill in any spaces that you may have missed, holding the tree to kind of keep it right where you want it, and set it pretty firmly in place. And that's all there is to it. So finishing it off, and go back around the front and give it a few more minor tweaks, and we are getting close to being done. Again, sometimes those roots keep coming up, but I think that looks quite good. I'm kind of happy with the results. So let me clean up a bit here, and we'll give it a final spin so we can take a look at it. Looks great. Once again, I'm really happy that I can finally use and showcase and have some enjoyment of this pot, other than it just being a pot that I own. I'm really looking forward to getting some age and patina on it and whatnot. So let's bring in both bonsai and have a look at them side by side. Feel free to go in the comments and say which one you like better, tan or green. I think it's kind of close. but I think they both turned out pretty well. Give that middle tree a little bit of an adjustment there. And like I said, I think it's a good use of these pots. I'll be sure to thank my friend for the jades. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. There'll be no parting thoughts today. I'm just too tired after all this hard work. And I appreciate you hanging tough and making it through this long video. Lots of action. And I look forward to seeing you soon, and thanks for spending time with me.